All right, let's do it live on a Thursday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing well, brother. Doing well. Got
You're
my on-air light. I wasn't sure. The first one's always the hard one because I was in an interview, doing an interview right
That's
before this.
That's the first time you've done it
in a long
since
time.
the light.
Yeah. Because
I
just
don't know
wasn't.
If you've had that since the light.
I hadn't talked into it yet to know.
I see.
So even with the light being on, I don't know what the last button press was necessarily on the microphone, so I couldn't be 100% sure.
I see.
So I went for it.
I see.
I could have just talked, but I would have rather not talk and then not hear it and then have to talk again to pull a Gibbe and then be like, ah. No, but now
there's
I'm
a
synced.
couple near mishaps daily with Zegura because he forgets to do it.
No, wrong.
Yeah,
erroneous,
no,
sad,
because people on the stream message me and they're like, "Oh, you forgot to turn it off. You're in break. You're stacking."
No.
What with the on-air light?
Yeah.
The light. Sometimes this remote is. Let's see. Like I just press a button there for those watching. On-air light remained on. So press it again. Sometimes it's not as responsive.
Listen, a couple of things.
Huh.
Number one, we can't have you, even if it is accurate, besmirching the on-air light. So
I love the on-air light. It's my
no
favorite
blame,
thing ever.
Even if it is to blame,
it's beyond reproach.
It receives no blame.
Fine, beyond reproach.
That's right.
I take
is
it
beyond
back.
reproach. Yeah.
How dare I?
By the way, have you ever used reproach in any other sequence of words other than after beyond?
I do not believe so.
Yeah. I think that's the only way it can be used.
Yeah.
Much like if I say a certain, then you would say je ne sais quoi. There's
right.
nothing else that comes after a certain.
Or if I said
that's
a
that's
yeoman's
effort.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, I don't know how else to do it. That's the way that it goes.
I don't think you need to do it any
Do we have
other
a program? No, I think we have a program. I think Double Deuce is joining us.
Oh, that's
Delpit's
right.
joining us on the
Oh,
program.
yeah. Just
oh boy.
Just talked to him right before we went on the air. Double
Very
Deuce
good.
is joining us. I can give you a little sneak peek for the fans right here, not of Double Deuces, but something else that I did today for the people that put these on your calendar as soon as I'll let you know when they're released. But we fired up the Browns breakdowns again, myself and Dane Brugler, the senior draft analyst at The Athletic, where we watch all 22 tape of our rookies, our draft class.
Oh, that's always fun.
And break them down.
Sure.
It is awesome. Spoiler alert. It's exciting. We knew it was an exciting draft class, but then when you get to watch it and you hear Dane break some things down, and watching Owusu Koromoa's tape is just fun. It's a real treat. It's a delight.
It's the reason that you, after talking to people who called his games in college, came on this show and said he might be someone we'd want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And with all of your college football watching, said, this might be a guy. If you're looking for somebody at 26 who's just a dude, that might be elite traits. I remember you saying a lot, elite traits.
Listen, it's a good thing that in
so
my
now
past,
it's coming fruition.
I had broken bread on multiple occasions with Tony Dungy, and so it was an easy conversation to have with him. And he said, this is Derek Brooks. Second coming.
There it is.
There it
Derek
is.
Brooks. Simple. It's not hard.
There's a lot of truth.
It's not hard.
Everything I said was true in that statement. I have broken bread many times at Quality Italian with Tony Dungy. One of the coolest.
Part of the Dan Patrick Sunday Night Football
That's
crew?
right. Yeah, that was one of the coolest
There you
dinners I ever was a part of, and there was a debate on who was the greatest tight end of all time that got heated, and it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, share.
Well, the coach, if I recall, obviously had thought Gronk was incredible, but he was what Vernon Davis did as a blocker really resonated with Tony Dungy, and it was very impressed by him.
He has been known historically to swerve on opinions like those.
Yeah.
He's famous for taking, Coach, here's options A and B. I like D. I think I'm going to go D on this one. He'll do that from time to time. So I don't know that you'd get a conversation about that for many, and certainly he's a Hoff, so, he is who he is, an all-time legend, but would get a whole lot of co-signing on Vernon Davis, greatest tight end.
I don't remember where it ultimately ended up, but he just was, and, Vernon's career is kind of crazy. He played until he was like 60, it felt like.
Right.
So,
yeah.
He wanted somebody who was well because, Gonzalez and Gates and some of the others that were bandied about in terms of huge stat accumulators and great receivers. Dungy wanted to make sure the guy was a great blocker. And I think they ultimately settled on Gronk because Gronk did everything in his heyday. There was nothing that Gronk couldn't do. But he had a great deal of respect for what Vernon Davis brought to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I buy that. Did you watch any of the NBA last night before we get into the football conversation in depth?
So I watched highlights that I thoroughly enjoyed of Trae Young's performance in the Garden.
He's better than I thought he'd be sooner.
He's really good. The bow?
Yeah.
The bow?
He's better sooner than I thought.
That would have passed.
The bow is incredible. What a piece of showmanship.
Oh, yeah, that would have passed the Larry David bow test. Can't have a BS bow. That was a legitimate bow.
Yeah, first player since Jordan to score 3 straight games at MSG in the playoffs of over 30.
Wow.
And that seems significant, but then you also factor that they haven't played a lot of playoff games in 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it's probably not quite as impressive as it seems on the surface. He's a guy that's better than I thought. There is something that's going on in that league, and I saw that their ratings were up over the weekend. Actually did a pretty good job from a rating standpoint, the NBA did, even compared to 2019, let alone last year. And feels like the passing of a torch. Like if LeBron can't get this done, they're battered in LA. They've played so many games in such a short period of time. Like if he can't get out of the first round, and you're talking about the Jazz, the Nuggets, if they can close out Dame Dollar, talking about the Suns. I mean, they have Chris Paul, but it's the young guys
Devin
that
Booker,
really fuel it. Yeah, and Ayton and Booker and those guys, and then you add to them Luka Doncic, who had 42 through 3 quarters last night. He's pretty good. And then in the East, you've got the Evil Empire in Brooklyn. You've got the Sixers, who are young, Giannis with the Bucks, and now Trae Young. So it does feel like a little bit of a changing of the guard. It seems like there's an appetite for it.
So here's one thing that I would say about the NBA, and you mentioned that ratings were up. Football is a game that was able to survive and thrive with a lack of crowd. I think in the NBA, the atmospheres that we're getting in some of these playoff games adds substantially to the product that you are watching. Substantially.
I believe you said a fact. I will not dispute it. I think the biggest reason that you didn't feel it on television with football is because of the way the game is shot.
That's right.
The game is shot tight. You really are only seeing the field of play. If you're directing an NFL game for television, you can shoot it in a way to where the crowd is almost never seen.
Maybe on a kickoff or a punt when the ball gets that high. That's it.
Yeah,
Hail Mary.
Rare.
Yeah.
And you can cut
to
where it's a split second. It's impossible. The other sports, it's impossible to show without seeing the empty stands.
Yep.
So when they were piping in the crowd noise on the NFL, honestly, it was negligible. You could hardly tell the difference. Now, I noticed it in college because college do not have the amount of cameras that the NFL has. The stadiums are, in many instances, very, very old, and so they're not built for television the way that they're built for television in the NFL. So college, I noticed it more. But in the NFL, I think that was a big part of it. I really do. I think it was a very big part of it. And you're right. There was an NHL game I watched 10 days ago. It was Penguins and Islanders and the Canadiens and Leafs were on all at the same time. I was more interested in Canadiens and Leafs because the Leafs haven't won a series since 2004.
Yeah.
That game was played in front of nobody. Okay, Canadiens-Leafs was played in front of nobody. The Pens-Islanders game was played in front of fans. I said, I'm going to watch the Battle of Canada. I couldn't stay there. I went to the Islanders and Pens because the crowd.
Yep. The emotion, the passion, sure.
Played a tremendous difference. Absolutely tremendous difference. The Memorial Tournament underway. It's our last tournament in Ohio, right? It's our last professional golf tournament in Ohio. We used to always you have 2 a summer. We haven't had Firestone in a while.
Yeah.
And so it's just the Memorial Tournament, and it is the Memorial Tournament. And even if you didn't know if it was, you just look outside and see rain and go, "Yep, that's what happens."
That's it.
And it is. That's it.
Play is
it
currently
rains
suspended.
Yeah, I mean I don't know that I covered it for a decade or better. I don't know that I've ever been to one where there wasn't play stopped by rain at some point. Just book it. Book it.
June.
And there was this old story that Jack built the course on an Indian burial ground, and that it was haunted by Chief Leatherlips, and so he was the guy who cursed the course and demanded that it rain. And so they talk about that all the time, the curse of Chief Leatherlips, that he's the guy who cursed it, and that's why it rains, because they built it out there.
I don't know about you guys, but
yeah,
if if I had to go one day and lead my tribesmen against a chief, and his name was Leather Lips, I would be reconsidering that. I would be looking to smoke the peace pipe with Chief Leather Lips. Yep. I'm not looking to
listen, boys.
To go no.
Yeah,
that's a strong. That sounds real strong to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think at that point, I'll see on. Let's see if we can find some peyote, come to an understanding.
Sure.
I think that's probably the way that's handled. That's how I'd handle that. I think you'd be open to those things.
I'm even more intimidated by Leather Lips than I would be by Leatherface, who we know has played a role in many a horror film. I think Chief Leather Lips sounds quite formidable.
I think I think there are 3 Native American chiefs that are more formidable. I would say Geronimo is a formidable. Sitting Bull
that was the
and
first
Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Lips. Ask Custer. And then I'd put
it kind of hard to do
right in there.
Kind of hard to do.
In. Yeah. You don't want to do that at all.
You couldn't get a post-game interview from Custer.
No. George, what happened? The flowing locks. You're such a wonder kid at West Point. What happened?
Unfortunately, it was his last stand.
Yeah, it certainly was.
If they did a last
That's
stand,
interesting. You chose the low ground.
Yeah.
You chose the low ground. That's an interesting move.
There's no last stand documentary where he's looking at an iPad laughing at something that was said about him. No.
And I took that personal.
Well,
they did.
They did.
I believe they did.
I believe they did take that.
Pretty decisive. Yeah. So what do you got going on out there today? You anybody out there? I know there's no availability, but anybody bouncing around? What's happening? Tell me. Talk to me, Goose.
You obviously got to talk with Mr. Delpit, and last day of OTAs for this week, and then we'll be back at it next week, and hopefully in 2 weeks' time, or let's see, in 2 weeks' time, that's when we got our mandatory minicamp starting on the 15th. So I would imagine probably similar. We'll have a media availability day again next Wednesday, the 9th. But I think, I've talked with a lot of people after our show yesterday, and that Kevin Stefanski's answers and the way that he handled the whole OTA situation, as you said, the Fonz, so cool, unflappable, no fluster.
That's right.
It's perfect. And the people that are here are going to get great work. And they're going to get great coaching. And then the people that are here whenever they do arrive, then they're going to get great coaching and get coached up and be ready to go. But I think that everybody yesterday really kind of did an excellent job of saying, we're here. Those who are here. The other ones are working where they want to be working right now. And we're going to be ready as a football team. And I think even just getting those 3 days in is going to be great. I'm excited for the 3 days that they're going to get in with everybody for mandatory minicamp. I think it's going to be an exciting thing.
I think he is something that that we all aspire to be, and you hear it said a lot, which is control what you can control.
That's right.
He lives it. He lives that. Like he does. It's hard to do. I think we all aspire to it. You aspire to say, all right, I can't concern myself, and I think I do a decent job with it. I think you do a decent job with it, like we do. That you do the best you can. We all try. Some people harder than others.
That's right.
This guy lives it, man. He's not interested in what he can't control. He's not interested in hypotheticals. He's not interested in alternatives to the reality that he's in at the moment.
Yep.
He views it very day to day. He views it very matter-of-factly, and he views it under the terms of only what he can control. It's a real grown-up way to go about life, let alone coach a football team.
Yeah,
and I think it's respected by his players.
It is certainly much easier said than done, but they do respect that, and they respect the consistency that he brings. And I think, it's one of the reasons why when everybody is here that we want to see, or why I think they're going to hit the ground running. There is excellent participation on these Zoom meetings. And so a lot of the people that, you're saying, oh, they're not here yet, we'd love them to be here. They're getting all the mental work. They're getting all the reps. They're getting the interactivity with their coaches and with their teammates so that they are, in fact, ready to go when they get here to Berea. And I think that is not too far off in the distant future, that we're going to have, a much more complete roster here getting ready for the 2021 season, which is a season that has an opportunity to be very, very special. And that's a fact that's not lost on any of the players that I speak to, any of the coaches I speak to, anybody in this organization.
couple of things I want to run by you outside
Sure.
of our normal parameters, which is, where I think you and I thrive. So the news today that David Spade is in for Chris Harrison on Bachelor in Paradise. Okay. Will they require him to play along, or will they want him to do him?
I don't know.
Because Harrison takes it seriously.
He
plays the role of.
He's the best.
If you don't, it's a mockery. And it's a mockery anyway. But him taking it seriously is part of all of it.
Yeah, the care that he has for the people, the journey, their journey.
Yes.
So I think
their journey.
All right, I saw that news.
Your thoughts?
And it just made me think. All right, we got to get Chris back. Like he messed up. He's messed up. We know he messed up. He is.
Yep.
Apologized. He has missed. He's not going to be on the next season of The Bachelorette at all. I thought Paradise would have been a nice time to make his return, but hopefully it will be soon. I'm concerned. The thing with Spade is the wild card with Spade, it feels like to me, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn because I don't know his current marital status, but Spade in Paradise feels like Spade could insert himself into the competition.
I'm not even going to follow that up other than to say I know the man's history, and I think you're right.
Right? So that's the only interesting potential angle of Spade being there. But, you got to take – people are there looking for love, man. This isn't a joke. This isn't I'm just trying to get on TV and get famous. This is I'm here for love. I want a love story.
I think they're going to – they have to be very curious if he do they let him be him? I assume you hire him to be him and mock it, but I don't think that's what the audience wants.
No. In fact, the initial pushback to this has been stout on the socials amongst those who are committed to the franchise and committed to the pursuit of love, which is what that show's all about.
Pursuit of love. That's all they're looking for. Yeah. They're trying to find their husband or wife. Their person they're going to spend the rest of their
journey.
Lives with.
Trying to find their person. Right, their person.
Do you remember on this show when the Kristen Cavallari, Jay Cutler reality show debuted?
I sure do.
And we were like, holy cow, Cutler's unbelievable.
He's a star. He's a legend.
Star. And I hypothesized at the time that it would lead to the demise of the marriage because now he is even better at what made her famous than she is. So not only does he have all the money from the NFL.
Yeah, I believe you had that.
I believe I had that as well.
Don't try to silence us right now, Gibby.
How dare you, Gibby? I'm going to blow right through that stop sign. I'm in the middle of something here. So then I see the news in the New York Post 2 days ago. I see the news in the New York Post that Cutler, so she wants, you're number one too, she wants half of his earnings. So Cutler says, I want half of your brand.
That's getting
good job
so
out of Jay.
That's going to get ugly. Oh, boy. That's going to get really, really contentious.
Jay comes back.
Yeah, Jay's not.
I want half of your brand.
Yeah, he's not going to sit there and just go quietly into the night smoking Jay. No, not a chance at all. Wow, that's an escalation. That is not going to be that's not going to be fun for anybody involved, unfortunately.
No.
So hopefully, I wish them a speedy resolution to that. Another kind of off the reservation thing. Speaking of Jay Cutler and his ability to sling the ball, really, it only invokes one person though. But I'm sure you've seen the video going around of the Buckeye recruit with the mullet who throws the ball like Jeff George and is now going to be my favorite maybe Buckeye ever. I feel like he's
Quinn Ewers is the kid's name. He's from Dallas South Lake Carroll High School, the Dragons.
Yep.
He has a bleach blonde mullet.
He slings it like Jeff, sidearm moving to his left. There's a lot of Jeff.
He's the highest rated non-Trevor Lawrence high school quarterback ever.
Yeah, because he's like Jeff George.
In many instances.
Was Jeff pre-rankings?
What he really, I mean, he's the consensus number one player in the country by a wide margin. There's a viral video going around of him throwing from every arm angle you can imagine, from all sorts of distances and crazy angles, with what appears to be the effort of like his little finger.
Yep.
Like just flicking it. Honestly, and I thought this might be where you went. Would be the Jeff George, and I think that's fair because Jeff George had an absolute hose, and I think they carried themselves similar. And a mullet, yeah. Honestly, reminds me a little bit of Stafford, and Stafford came from the Dallas area, and he was that polished coming out of high school, and he was the number one player in the country, and he was the number one overall pick. And I've said that on certain platforms I have that are Buckeye sensitive, and it was as if I was besmirching Quinn Ewers that I compared him to Stafford.
They don't know how much you love Stafford. If Stafford,
he's also the number one pick in the draft.
So is Jeff George. That's right. Yeah, high accolades.
So let's not act like it's not like I said, oh yeah, he looks like he looks like Gardner Minshew. No. I'm comparing him to a guy who went number one overall.
That's right. In the National Football League.
That's pretty high. High praise.
It is high praise. So. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think if Matt Stafford were your son, he's the kind of guy that, would only drink his orange juice out of an etched glass with antlers on it, out of your special cabinet.
What a move.
That's the kind of kid he is.
He would be that type of kid. That was a power move this morning.
The bold.
Out of the bowl.
Unfettered.
Jeez.
Unfettered.
Not mine, Dad. I only drink out of the glasses that have horns on them. Oh. Where are you getting those? In your cabinet.
So
all right.
That leads to a lot of questions. So that's the story that we all received on Twitter today. I do follow you on social for Bootsy updates more than anything. And
sure,
I have a lot of questions. Number one, a cabinet of this repute and containing, in my mind, significant aged bourbons and wonderful.
No. The glasses, the tumblers are separate from the spirits.
Okay, separate and also clearly low to the ground. Is he getting on a chair to retrieve
this? Not
so
low to the ground.
So how is he?
He navigated a counter, pulled himself up, got in.
Okay, this is what. Yeah. So he scaled the mountain.
He scaled
to retrieve his glass. And now, how long? Now that I'm sure you've done some background investigations, you've had a postmortem with your wife. How long has this been his glass?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Undetermined. I know he drinks out of a glass with horns from a tough-to-get-into golf club. That's all I know.
It's just so on brand. It's so.
What a morning.
You couldn't script some of the things that he does to be Bootsy-ish, and they're.
I wish, and I don't give you guys all of it because I don't want to overdo it because it gets, I don't want it to be like, okay, enough of this nonsense. So I don't want to give you all of it. But the stuff that I don't capture is oftentimes exceeds what I do. Like you're just getting a taste of this human's life. Just a taste of it. So obsessing over something like football could be a problem. If you're obsessing over gambling, it can be downright dangerous. So do something to take your mind off it. Find a hobby, perhaps. If you want some tips, go to keepitfunohio.com for great ways to keep gambling fun. You'll hear from Grant Delpit a little bit later this hour. We'll go around the NFL coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. My friends, imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. You get a 6-person hot tub. You get the lounger. I saw Z in one over the weekend with the lounger. The lights still afford your summer activities as well. Think of owning a hot tub. Think it'd be a pain? Northeast Factory Direct hot tubs come with exclusive hardtop covers. You don't have to worry about safety or convenience. Plus, you're getting a lifetime warranty on the cover. That's enormous. Looking for a way to stay active, they have these amazing swim spas, like a hot tub you can adjust the jets, give you a gentle current, and you can use them year-round. See for yourself, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. So, a couple of interesting things as we go around the league, and you'll hear from Grant Delpit here in about 10 minutes or so. Let's start with this. You've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars, what they're doing, what's going on down there?
I mean, these are pretty incredible, huh? Pretty incredible artist renderings.
They are using Urban Meyer the way you would use him if he were a college coach.
That's right.
They are using him to build facilities. Now, it's not coming from donors. It's coming from Shad Khan, and he's got the money. But they are using Urban to launch initiatives for their brand. That's what this is. It's remarkable. Now, I've been to Jacksonville a lot. I covered a lot of games there. They used to have this thing called The Landing, which for Florida, Georgia was pretty awesome. For everything else, was a ghost town.
Yep.
An absolute ghost town. If you went to Jacksonville on a Tuesday and you ate it, being North Florida, I'm sure there was a Hooters there. And if you went, there would be you and your buddy, that's it, in the whole place. Nobody in there, right? So the idea that town is so big geographically that people are going to come downtown. And I thought I saw in this plan that they have a 4 Seasons.
So that was the last slide. The last slide is a hotel with cascading pools down to a marina.
It's on the St. James River. Like, it's not on the beach.
Right. It's really amazing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I just don't, I think it's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell in that market.
I will say, when we went down to Jacksonville, it was a tremendous time. I think the stadium with the pools is very cool. But the idea that you're going to turn Jacksonville into an insane, like trying to come in to see a Jags game like going to Vegas, I don't see that. I have a hard time getting my head around that.
No, and they have no reach beyond their area.
Right.
The thinking when they put that team was that people from Orlando would come to Jacksonville to go to games. And even when they had Baselli and Taylor and all, they never did. Brunell, they never did. And they had good teams right away. It's not like they struggled forever. Like, they had really good teams. They were in the AFC Championship game, year 2?
Yeah.
They smoked Marino, I remember, in one of his last games, like 60-something to 7. Like, they were successful right away.
Yeah.
It's not a big market. And if anything, it's a college football market is what it is. They care mostly about Florida football. So
it's funny that, as you said, it's like we're going to build these great facilities and then everybody's going to want to come play here. This isn't college. You don't get to have an opportunity in every player. And free agency.
Right.
It's still not college. And you can't just build your team through free agency every year.
This is something that happens in college all the time. Ohio State gets a waterfall. Nick Saban builds a water park. Clemson, that's how it works. You call a booster. You say, hey, man, Saban's got a waterfall. Well, I guess we need a wave pool. Get one going. Call somebody. Let's go. And that's what they do. That's how college football works. That's the arms race. The NFL, to me, I don't see it. I just don't see it. But we'll see. A 4 Seasons down there, the thing that would be nice is when you guys go down there and travel, that would be your hotel. So that'd be good. But you'd be a ways from the Gulf.
I imagine if this is a part of their facilities and plans, they're going to say no away team stays here.
Who's going to stay there then?
I don't know.
When you go to North Florida on vacation, if you're going to go to North Florida, first you go to Sea Island, Georgia before you go there.
You can't build a 4 Seasons resort and say 10 days a year, 10 Saturday nights a year when opposing teams are here. It's going to be full. What about the other 355, Coach?
Well, that's what I'm saying, brother. I don't know who If you go there, you're going to go play Sawgrass, and you're going to stay at Jack's Beach. That's where you're going. You're not going to stay downtown.
Right.
That's just not it. It's just not the way it's going to go. This news today as well, this broke this morning. Spring of 2022, an 8-team league and the rebirth of the USFL. Now, I don't remember the USFL as a kid. I've seen a lot of documentaries about it.
Sure.
I've read about it. I think it's fascinating. It's amazing that they outbid for Herschel Walker and Jim Kelly and all of the things that they did at that time. They have a television partner in Fox who's financially invested in it. They're hoping for spring football. So this would be the second one because you have the XFL with The Rock. There's the CFL, which is the one that's been there because it's been there forever, and they have a very strict salary scale, and they don't worry about the American market. I don't know that we need it. My advice to them, if they did it, whichever one gets an association with the NFL is the one that's going to win. If
Correct.
the NFL is willing to let them into the playhouse, but I don't think the NFL will. So I think it's going to be very difficult to make it work here. And I think what you can't do is you can't have teams in NFL cities. You can't have them in L.A., New York, Seattle, where they're NFL towns. Go to places that don't have NFL teams, put them there. Go to St. Louis. You remember your XFL days when you were a season ticket holder in Birmingham. Go to Columbus. Go to places like that that don't have spring attention getters and don't have the NFL. That's your best chance.
I agree with you. There is not room for a USFL and the XFL. So the USFL saying it's coming in 2022. When's the XFL planning to come back with The Rock?
I haven't seen.
I do think that there is.
I have not seen.
From a player standpoint, there should be a developmental league for the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it clearly, you saw people come in, have success from the AAF, get themselves jobs. Dearness Johnson on our team certainly comes to mind. There have been others. I mean, Garrett Gilbert was the all-time leading passer in the history of the AAF.
That's right.
I know, now he's gone from here into Dallas, still in the league. So I do think that there is something for that.
Remember how big of a point of emphasis that was for you?
Huge.
Huge point of emphasis.
Nobody's ever thrown for more yards in the history of the AAF.
No one's ever thrown.
Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah.
Nobody.
No.
I just don't think there are two. And the notion that they keep wanting to compete with each other is just wild to me.
Right.
Why are we doing that?
It's weird that they can't get on the same page.
Just one thing, do it.
One of you. And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very difficult to try to. It's impossible to do two. There just isn't enough. There's not enough money to go around, and there's not enough corporate money to go around. And one of the big mistakes that the XFL made and the AAF made, or whatever it was called, is they were in markets that we're in.
Yep.
You don't need a team in New York. Nobody in New York cares. You got to go places where they don't have it. I mean, you think about the old XFL and you think about playing in Memphis. That's probably the best route.
Yep.
A place where you'll have local belief in what you're doing. So, Gibbe talks about the Lamar Jackson highlight tweet with new wide receiver Sammy Watkins. I did not see this. Have you?
Yes.
Tell me what I missed.
It's getting a lot of McAfee does a great breakdown of it in a manner in which we are not capable of breaking it down. But basically,
sure.
I think the headline was something like, Lamar Jackson to Sammy Watkins, and then there's a video. And so in my mind, I thought they were going to be showing him throw like a bomb to Watkins for a touchdown. Instead, what they show is a ball that kind of slipped out of Lamar's hand. It's a wobbler, but it gets to Sammy Watkins,
sure.
who catches it, maybe inbounds, maybe out of bounds for like a 10-yard gain on an out. And of all the possible
build-up
clips that you could have picked to say you're highlighting this new connection, it just was, from a video standpoint, it felt like an odd choice. And so they did on McAfee, they did it as a Bruder film breakdown. It must have been a windy day, and then they noticed the trees weren't moving, and then they said, well, Peyton Manning threw a lot of ugly-looking balls in the air, and he would say, I threw a lot of ugly-looking balls that became touchdowns, no big deal. So it just was an odd. It was not the highlight that you would have expected to see. That's all. I think that's.
There's no way New Rob allows for that.
Oh,
for
no.
example.
New Rob would not have. No, That doesn't pass the new Rob smell test.
No. And also ironic, on the same day that Greg Roman says we need Lamar Jackson under center. I feel like I've read this book when he was in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick, and the ending wasn't good. Let him be him. Go ahead, please. For our from our perspective, yes, put him under center. Make him a three-step and out quarterback. Please, go nuts. But I've read the book. I know how this one ends. Let him live, man.
You've got
or don't.
But I guess for the Ravens, if you do, and all of a sudden you can have some success from that, and he can become a thrower of the football that is you're able to rely on, then he's going to be as unstoppable as anybody in the league.
My brother was once dating a girl who was a pill, for lack of a better term. She was 29, and just was a nightmare. And he said, but what if she could change? I said, buddy, she's fully formed. There's no changing. She is who she is, man. And that's Lamar Jackson. Love him for what he is. Greg Roman, don't try to make him something he's not. That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way you got to do it. All right. The Double Deuce joins us coming up next. The great Grant Delpit on the program. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Services. Are you having problems with your roof? Call Weather Seal Home Services now and get a beautiful roof in just 1 week for just $1 down and free gutters during the Weather Seal Spring Roofing Sale. At Weather Seal, you also get up to 7 years, 0 interest with approved credit, reducing your monthly payment. That's a win for everybody. Trust in Weather Seal to do the job right the first time for the best price and the lowest monthly payments. It's as simple as that. Don't call anyone else. Call them now, 877-351-SEAL, or go to weathersealhomeservices.com. Dr. Z.
Yeah, I'm very excited that we're going to get a chance to catch up with Double Deuces. We're huge fans of him, obviously, on this program. Gibbe, I know it was a quick turnaround, but did you edit it? Were you able to edit it? He gave us the okay, so he's edited this interview. So go ahead, Beau. You can let it roll.
And now here is Grant Delpit.
Very happy now to be joined by
you guys are down.
Friend of the show, Grant Delpit. And Grant, you know, it's been a while since we've gotten to talk. I know the last year, I'm sure, has been incredibly difficult for you, and we'll kind of talk about that journey. But let's just start with, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I just finished running on the field just now, actually, and it was a good day. And I just, getting better every day, man.
And that's what we love to hear. And I know this journey has been incredibly tough for you, but if you were to sit back and reflect on the last, 10 months, what do you think is maybe the biggest thing you learned, either about yourself, about life, going through this adversity?
Yeah, right, exactly. I learned that you can't take anything for granted in life, especially in the league. So, so we have a great opportunity here. I'm blessed. Things could be worse. It's way worse injuries out there. That's what I tell myself. So, I'm just blessed to be able to come back.
What was kind of the thing that kept you motivated, day in and day out? Because, I know some athletes, rehab is a very difficult thing. And it's a very difficult thing while the season's going on. And you got to go out there and try to get your body back to where it was when it was kind of taken away from you on a very innocent jump catching a pass. So what was your motivation? What kept you going during that rehab? What was your why?
Yeah, my motivation was just, literally just, seeing how hard I worked to be here. I have a lot ahead of me. So, I'm not going to let, one injury stop me. Like I said, it's worse things in the world. So it's just another thing, another obstacle. And just, learn from it and move on.
Are you and Greedy closer than maybe you ever thought you might be after kind of going through this together?
Everybody always asks that. But, yeah, we've always been close. It was cool to have somebody that I have a history with to rehab with. But, I think we've always had a real close friendship.
All right, so the past is the past. You're running now. What are kind of the milestones for you to be, as I know you said earlier, a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week, you said, the goal is to be ready for training camp. So what are the milestones that the boxes you're looking to check between now and training camp?
Yeah, just being able to get in cleats, do football drills like right now, get used to that. So I can do that, 2 months before training camp or a month and a half, and be comfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's another thing you got to learn how to do and adapt to on the fly. So just being able to, not think about it is my main goal. I want to get to that point. We're not there yet, but, it's coming up.
It's coming up. So you're feeling it. You look big. I'm going to tell you. You look to be in tremendous condition. Is that something that, you were able to do, focus on the upper body and during this time?
Yeah. Do a lot of good workouts. I was a house athlete for a couple months, and I was at in Houston with Ben Fairchild working out. So we've hit it a lot. Trying to build a calf muscle up also. So just trying to hit everything really.
And was, when you think about kind of coming back, and you mentioned kind of getting to where you don't think about it anymore, were you able to talk with any other, prominent NFL or maybe even NBA players who have gone through Achilles? Was there kind of like a support group for you amongst athletes that you could talk to about guys who have overcome this and gone on?
The strength coach, Larry Jackson, he tore his Achilles years ago. We talked for a lot, many times, and he just, told me how to improve it and, what to look for. And so he's been very helpful for me. Also, I talked to Quan Alexander a little bit. He's going through it right now as well. So, a couple of those guys have really helped me out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we always like to have somebody that has shared experience that we can talk about and have people to go through it with. So I'm glad to hear that. Now, I want to share something with you that Joe Woods told us here on this show, and that is, obviously when you went down, plans changed. And they wanted to play a lot of dime defense. You were going to be a big part of that. They ended up playing 16 snaps of dime last year. His goal this year is to play more than 400 snaps of dime defense. And so that's got to be exciting for you. And how do you kind of see this defense, since you've gotten to be in all the meetings, you got to go through and still stay in the playbook, you're going to really hit the ground running. How excited are you for what this defense can become and for the role you can play in it?
Yeah, just expansion, just whatever we could do to be a versatile defense, and I'm all for it. So if Coach Wood said we playing 400 snaps with dime, that's what we're going to do. So, I'm real excited just to get on the field and just get going.
And kind of take us through we know what you said you're now able to kind of do some running on the field. What's it been like for you off the field in terms of meetings, in terms of, talking with Coach Howard and Coach Lynch and Coach Woods and, maybe some of your teammates, Ronnie, and bringing John Johnson in here and Sheldrick in that safety room. What's the off-field part of this been like for you?
Same stuff, just business-like, we're here to win. So, we're here to learn, and, opportunities come to a prepared mind. So we're just trying to learn as much as we can right now, so we could have success in the season. So nothing really changed. Just keep it going and be professional.
So you've gotten all the mental reps you could possibly get, right? So that's kind of what you've been doing, everything there in your mind. And, have you talked with John Johnson III since he's been brought in?
Yeah, a couple of times. I haven't seen him in person yet, but so when he gets here, we'll chop it up.
Yeah, and you have Ronnie coming in last year, and it looks to be a pretty exciting safety room to be a part of. And I know your coach, Coach Howard, he always says, "Give me all the safeties. Give me all the safeties and all the things that I can do." And are you excited kind of for the versatility? Because JJ3 said something very interesting to me. He said that you guys all have similar skills, play style, and size, that there's going to be a lot of disguise where you and Ronnie and JJ3 are able to do a lot of different things, whether it's play in the box, play deep in center field, come down and cover the nickel, blitz, all of those things.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Anything to confuse the offense, man, anything to win. So I do think, we all have a similar, playing capability and ability. So, that's going to be great just to, rotation or just to be able to make plays all over the field. That's the main goal, and it's to win. So I think that was a great shot, to be successful, man.
Who's more excited for you to get back on the field, you or Joe Woods?
Probably me. Probably me. Yeah, probably definitely me.
What's that going to mean to you when you kind of have been able to kind of overcome this, get back on the field, and have an opportunity to play your first game as a Cleveland Brown, hopefully coming up this fall?
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a surreal moment. Like I said, it's gonna be crazy. I really ain't even been in the game locker room yet, believe it or not. When I was hurt, I'll just go up to the suite, lead after. But it's just gonna be a long time coming, man, and do everything I can right now so it can happen.
Has there been a teammate or a coach or anybody who's kind of surprised you with just like how much they've been in contact with you or how much they rooted for you, or something maybe that somebody said to you even just one time that really stuck with you kind of during this process and let you know what a big part you are of this Cleveland Browns family and this team and what it can hopefully accomplish?
Yeah, I'm just glad for the overall support. It's just steady. They're always checking on me, stuff like that. Coach Wood told me the other day actually that he went back and watched all my tape from my junior year. So just getting ready for the season, see what I can improve on, and give me tips here and there. So that was good to hear. Just ready to work now.
So when you are not able to play football, I know you're doing everything mentally, playbook-wise, film-wise, all of those things. But what did you do kind of, for entertainment to keep yourself sane, through what was, I'm sure, a very challenging year? And did you binge any shows that you ended up loving? Was there any video games that you were loving? What were you doing kind of just in your downtime for yourself?
Downtime to myself, man. This offseason has been a lot of rehab. So it's been a lot of rehab, just getting my body right, doing yoga, doing just stuff that, I haven't really done before, that I could carry with me. Of course, the Call of Duty coming. Of course that. What else, man? Read a couple books here and there, and just trying to broaden my horizon, of just our overall knowledge, man, just to see what I want to do outside of football. So, we're going to figure it out.
Can you take us through like a typical day in rehab, maybe when it was at its toughest? I mean, I don't know if people really understand. It's a full-time job, right? Just trying to do the rehab. So what was a typical day like for you during this process?
I probably wake up early in the morning, like 8. Go to the wherever I was rehabbing at. Let's say I was, go to the house of athlete, get work done for a little bit. Maybe 30, 45 minutes, then go do my actual rehab, strengthening, then do a workout. Then after that, maybe do some running, treadmill on the field, work in some football drills here and there. After might do some yoga. So, it's a lot of work that goes in on an everyday basis, man. It goes on behind the scenes. I don't really post a lot of things I do. So, hopefully I could I'll start doing that here and there just to show the fans what I'm doing nowadays.
So you mentioned earlier, and I'm sure the fans want to see that. The fans. I'll tell you what, the fans are every bit.
I gotta come out. I gotta make a YouTube channel, man. I gotta get on it.
There you go. People will check that out, the Grant Delpit YouTube channel. Now, Grant, when it's an Achilles, it's a tendon. So it's not like it's a muscle that you're a torn muscle or something that you're working through. So how do you rehab? Is the goal to build up the calf to support it? I know you mentioned that earlier. What's the goal there in terms of the rehab itself?
Yeah, it's all about, like you said, it's a tendon. So it's all about building up that calf muscle that was just sitting in the calf for, 2 months.
Yeah.
So you got to build that back up, and it comes along slowly. So just working that every day, trying to get some of that scar tissue out, the Achilles area. But, once that goes away, then you'll be back to normal.
All right, so you watched last season. You knew what kind of a magical ride that was for the Browns. You got to feel what it meant to this city. Well, guess what? Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, said that the Browns are going to be at 100% capacity this year at First Energy Stadium. So when you make your Browns debut and your home debut in week 2, it's going to be a full house. It's going to be rocking. What do you think that experience is even going to be like for you? And now that you've gotten to feel what football means to Cleveland and see the success that was had last year?
It's going to be a great experience. I definitely know what football means and the Cleveland Browns mean to the city of Cleveland and really Ohio in general. So, I'm ready to, get on the field. And really, it's been a long time coming, man. It kind of reminds me of LSU, Baton Rouge in Louisiana. It's kind of the same mentality, just football is pretty much everything.
Yep.
So, we're just ready to, hopefully bring a championship to Cleveland.
Well, we certainly hope so, Grant. Continue
30
success on your road to recovery, and then can't wait to see you on the field. Can't wait to talk to you and hopefully get you back here in the studio. Double deuces, keeping it, rocking it, love it. And, man, best of luck to you and looking forward to what you can do. And it's been a long time coming. The good news is we've had a lot of hype. We've been fired up for 2 years now, Grant, so we're excited to see what you can do, brother.
All right, yeah. It's time, man. It's been a long time coming. Hey, let's go.
Let's go. Grant, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for being with us here on Cleveland Browns Daily.
I appreciate it.
You're up.
Okay, so that was great.
Great.
But I think we all want to know what was edited out.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I am stunned to say that if you notice, it was a little choppy after my first question. I wanted to go, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And then I went right into, how did you end up on the BPA? What is the deal? You're a Browns Daily guy. We love you. And he says, look, I was duped. They told me it was Browns Daily. It's going to be with me and you.
Okay.
They wrote me in here to this BPA. I'm furious about it. I hated every second of it. And I felt the whole time like my return interview needed to be on Browns Daily. And that was on there. That's why I was grinning from ear to ear for people who were watching. I asked him if he edits it. He admits it right off the gate. And now this is what we're dealing with.
Now we know.
Okay. And look, he won't even respond. He has nothing to even say for himself.
As it were.
This is outrageous.
The real truth.
This is outrageous.
You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot. You didn't even let the people hear from Grant. This is a tragedy.
In what?
You're an idiot.
No.
Pete Prisco up
next. It never
next.
happened like that, people.
Did you hear it like that? Did you hear the qualifier? Like that.
Oh,
so he's taking umbrage with one of the very minute details, not
So,
discrediting the
coming up
bigger
next.
picture. He didn't say that never happened. Did you hear that? He said that it didn't happen like that.
Okay.
Like that. Here's what I would say. You're going to get a chance to put Pete Prisco, your old boy, on trial up next.
Yeah.
And that will be fun. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Yes.
Hey, be sure to catch the latest edition of the best podcast available. It's out today wherever you get your podcasts or by going to youtube.com/Browns. The new Browns defensive tackle Malik Jackson, interesting, joins the Ibs boys on this week's edition of the show.
I hear he's a fantastic interview, too, Malik Jackson.
I hear that.
We don't know it.
I hear that.
Yet.
I don't know it. I've heard it.
Same.
I know that Pete Prisco is an outstanding interview, and
best.
He's great. He's a senior NFL columnist for CBSSports.com. This is his favorite. This is one of my favorite times a year. Every year we get the top 100 from Pete, and he joins us on the hotline now. And then every year I'm sure he has to go around and defend it, and he's the best at defending it. So, Pete, welcome. I I will say that in this instance, your former cohort, Mr. Zegura,
that's right,
is in the position of prosecution. Now, historically, just to give you a little background, when it comes to him being a prosecutor, some things to look for. I'll give you a little scouting report. He likes to lead the witnesses, so be aware of that. He's a big leader of witnesses, and he's not Lieutenant Daniel Caffey. Like, this is, you don't have to worry about that. So I'll turn it over to him, and Mr. Zegura, the court is yours.
Well, one of my most prized possessions in my office at home is a signed F- signed by Pete Prisco from when you and I did a draft show together many, many years ago, and I feel like maybe it was a commentary on my performance. It was a one and done for me. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a draft grade given to somebody else. But, Pete, I want to turn around and contemplate, maybe not that low an F-, but I want to start with this. And first of all, Pete, let's start with this. How are you doing today, my friend? Thank you for being with us.
I'm outstanding. By the way, that F- was given for the pick of E.J. Manuel back in the day.
That's exactly right. It was his official on-air grade, E.J. Manuel, signed by Pete. It is a prized possession. I should turn it into an NFT for somebody that they could have.
He's already much more composed than Jessup was. Already much more composed than Jessup.
I'll tell you one thing right now about Pete Prisco that I know to be a 100% fact. He will argue with anybody, and his conviction in his position is as stout as anybody's, and he doesn't care who's the opposite. I remember you telling Brian Westbrook and Emmitt Smith on the Super Bowl shows that the running back position was over, that it was toast for you, so let's get into this for a second. Was it difficult for you, Pete, to put Derrick Henry at number 11 overall? Was that hard for you?
Yes and no. The running back position is something I do not value. You know that. But this isn't about the value of the position. This is more about the players. So when I take that into account, he earned the right to be in that number 11 spot. Now, there's some people that push back and said he should have been in the top 10, and I see where you can make a case for that. I just didn't put him there. I thought the guys I put in the top 10 earned the right to be there. And quite frankly, Myles Garrett is from Cleveland. Initially, I had him at like 11 or 12, went back and did more work, talked to more people, and moved them up. And so that's why Derrick Henry's not there. So, yeah, yes and no. Some people will say it's too low. I think it's about just right.
So I wanted to bring this up. So, and that's, I think for you to say that, to step out of, your running back bias is impressive. And I want to stay talking about running backs. Last year, something happened in the National Football League that had not happened since the year 1959 when Jim Brown accomplished this very same feat. To rush for more than 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns in a season in 12 games or fewer, while also averaging more than 5 yards per carry. Do you know, Pete, who accomplished that feat?
Or he averaged 5 yards a carry, not over.
5 or more yards per carry. 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns.
Correct. I know who it is. It's Nick Chubb.
That's right. It is Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb did that last year for the Browns in 12 games on the heels of a year before in which Nick Chubb was the second leading rusher in the NFL, only overtaken in the final week of the season by Derrick Henry. And Nick Chubb, by the way, averaged 5.6 yards per carry last year. He's averaged at least 5 yards a carry all 3 seasons in the NFL when Derrick Henry overtook him in week 17, or week 17, the 16th game, and he finished with 1494. Last year, 1067 and 12. He also added 150 yards receiving out of the backfield, nearly 10 yards a catch, had a 40-yard screen in the playoffs. No big deal to ice the game against the Steelers. So, Derrick Henry, who is great. You're not going to hear me argue about Derrick Henry. But I don't believe, I have some bias. I'll put my Nathan Zegura bias on the table. I don't believe that there are 4 other running backs, 5 total including Henry, that are better than Nick Chubb, who you have at 63 behind Ezekiel Elliott, who's it's been a little bit of a struggle for Ezekiel Elliott of late. So my question is, how does this happen to Nick Chubb?
Well, the year before he rushed for 1,357 yards.
Also less than Nick Chubb.
Struggle.
Also less than Nick Chubb.
I get it, but
and under 5 yards per carry. No big deal.
The Cowboys' offensive line was a disaster. The Browns' offensive line was actually really good
last year. Sure. What about 2 years ago?
I mean, I'm not He's not better than McCaffrey. He's not better than Alvin Kamara. So I'm not. So the argument is Zeke Elliott. I could see where you're going with that.
Is it just because of receiving that you'd say he's not better than Kamara or McCaffrey because of their dual threat?
Yeah, they're
nature?
the airbacks.
Yeah.
I think they're the airbacks.
Sure.
They're the modern day airback that I prefer, and I think that McCaffrey the year before was phenomenal. So he just got hurt last year, and that's the hard part about it. And you look at Elliott. Elliott's line was disaster last year. I mean, 4.0 per rush, I get it. It's not very good, but his line was awful. And he also didn't have his quarterback, and everybody knew that, and that impacted him a little bit. That's why I put him ahead, but I could see where you could make a case for Chubb ahead of Elliott. I'm not putting Chubb ahead of the two other guys at all. There's no chance of There's three other guys, no chance of that.
All right. Dalvin Cook, maybe. I'm a big Dalvin Cook fan as well, but I just want to throw –
not Dalvin Cook either.
I don't know. No. What do you think Nick Chubb's numbers would look like without Kareem Hunt?
Well, I mean, that's hard to say. What would his numbers look like if his offensive line was Minnesota's?
Let's go back to let's take 2020 out of the equation. Let's just throw it out. Great line for the Browns. Was the Browns line in 2019 that good, Pete? Would you say it was a top half of the league offensive line in 2019?
No, the tackle stunk.
And he was the second leading rusher in the NFL and averaged over 5 yards a carry.
We're not going on that. We're not going on that year. We're going on last year.
But that's what you cited for Zeke Elliott. Wait a second.
If you had to pick between,
wait a second.
You had to pick between
and McCaffrey.
McCaffrey didn't play last year.
If you had to pick between Dalvin Cook, but it's also looking forward too.
Sure.
Who would you pick, Dalvin Cook or Nick Chubb? You had your choice.
Nick Chubb.
I would pick Nick Chubb. And I mean that fully
sincerely, regardless of Orange and Brown.
I wouldn't take Nick Chubb over Elliott. I mean, over Kamara. I wouldn't take him over McCaffrey. I wouldn't take him over Cook. I wouldn't take him over Henry. But I can see where you could make a case for Elliott.
All right, so Elliott, at least we got. We'll take
great
one
last year, but I think
Dalvin is excellent.
What's that?
I said Dalvin is excellent. I said, well, at least we got one. I'd like to see him. I think Nick Chubb. What I would like to see is if another nice Nick Chubb season. I think he should have the right. I think he's a top 50 performer in the National Football League. I really do. I think that's fair. Bump him ahead of Elliott, also fair. I think he's really special, Pete. You look at his breakaway percentage. You look at his chunk run. There was a time where he had missed 4 games, I think in like week 10, and he still led the league in runs of 10 yards or more. And I know you like big play guys. That's what he does, and he can chew it down. He can catch the football. He doesn't get asked to do it as much as some of these other guys. But he's pretty good. And in a year where they didn't have a great offensive line, the scheme, you would say, in 19 was a little tough. Baker wasn't in 19 what he was in 2020, and he was still the second leading rusher in the NFL on a team that was 6-10. And now you put him on a good team.
I mean, the guy's
scary.
Nathan, he's one of the top 63 players in the NFL on this list. He can't really be. You're getting
Pete, as your boy, I want to stand for Nick Chubb right now the way that you want to stand for Tony Baselli and the Hall of Fame. That's my level of passion, Pete.
It's your hill to die on.
Yes, he's my Baselli.
You're going to come at me with, like the Browns fans came at me with Baker Mayfield not being in the top 100.
Pete, let's look at something big picture, though. That was a fun exercise. Let's do this. You have 5 of our guys in the top 100. On the just missed the cut, you've got 5 more. Nathan and I have made the argument on this show, and I'm curious where you stand on this. And we do the best you can to be objective, knowing, of course, is what we do every single day is talk about this team. We think it's a top 5 or 6 roster in the league. We do. What do you see?
I agree 100%. They were number 5 in my power rankings going into the offseason. I love what they've done. I think that they've built a really good, talented roster. Now, there is one major concern, and the major concern is, can somebody opposite Myles Garrett become a legitimate pass rusher? Because Clowney hasn't shown that. Pat McKinley's been major disappointment. So if they could get somebody going opposite him, then there are no holes. But that's a glaring hole when you got to get through Buffalo and you got to get through Kansas City. You got to be able to knock that quarterback down consistently. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think it's a talented roster, one that gets better by getting Beckham back, by the way.
Yes.
And the offensive line, if it stays healthy, I think Wills will be that much better this year than he was a year ago. So the line's going to be really good across the board, tackle to tackle. They aren't missing anything. And if you're the Cleveland Browns fans, you've got to be thrilled because this roster is absolutely loaded.
Listen, Pete Prisco doesn't throw out praise lightly. So when you say that, that is music certainly to our ears. How do you see, let's stay in our division after going through this exercise and doing what you did. How do you see our division stacking up going into this season?
Well, I think it's a race between the Browns and the Ravens. And, you know, the Ravens have some issues coming out of the offseason. Who's going to rush the passer for them? They suffered some hits there. They did draft a kid out of Penn State in the first round, but can he step in right away and become an edge player of note? You know, the receiver they drafted, Bateman, is he going to amp up the passing game? Is Lamar Jackson going to get better as a passer? So, like the Browns with their pass rush on the edge, I think that's something that the Ravens have to answer as well. So they have some questions. But I think it's those two. Right now, if I had to pick it, I'd probably pick Cleveland, and then then Baltimore right there with them, and then drop down a little bit because Pittsburgh. They could talk all they want about Roethlisberger didn't play well last year. The offensive line was a disaster.
Yeah.
They didn't run the ball very well. They drafted the running back, but if that line doesn't play better this year, and I do like the Green kid they drafted out of Illinois, he's a tough kid, and he'll be a center for them for a long time. I don't know if they're going to be much better as well on offense. So I think it's the two, Cleveland and Baltimore, then a little bit of a drop down, and then the Bengals will be feisty. They're going to bump a couple teams off this year and then watch out next year.
Yeah, I think their offense is frightening. I think it's frisky to say the least. You had Josh Allen comes in at number 10. He has proved me wrong, Pete. I didn't think you could teach accuracy, and he's done that. He's become accurate. He's great, MVP candidate. How far do you put us in the category with Buffalo, and how big is the gap between those two teams for you and Kansas City?
Well, again, it goes back to, and they're both in the same group. You got to knock Mahomes down. You saw that in the Super Bowl. It's got to be consistent pass rush, and Buffalo didn't show it in the playoff loss, and Cleveland has to show it better. So I think Kansas City is the top team, and I think they're clearly the top team in my book. But if either one of those two teams can develop that other, dominant edge rusher, and they drafted two in the first two rounds in Buffalo, if they can establish that, then those teams, the one that does it best will be the team that I think has the chance to knock off the Chiefs. But right now, the Chiefs are number one. As far as Josh Allen, you know what, that accuracy stuff, if you went back and watched this tape in college, because it got out there, it was one of those things, he became the guy that everybody wanted to kill in the draft lead up. And if you went back and watched his tape at Wyoming, he was doinking passes off wide receivers' face masks. I mean, he was throwing the bouncers and bartenders. And you knew it would get fixed. The first year in Buffalo, he had bad line. Then the receivers weren't great. Then he got Diggs, and now all of a sudden you're seeing a different guy. He was my number one quarterback that year. I still stand by that, even though the Browns took Baker. Baker's been pretty good, but he's not as good as Josh Allen.
Baker's he's got an opportunity to do it. 20 touchdowns, 2 picks down the stretch, and a team that has real aspirations.
He was great down the stretch. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, he's got to keep it going.
If he plays like he did down the stretch, Nathan, if he plays like he did down the stretch, then they have a legitimate chance to be a Super Bowl team.
And boy, would that be so sweet. You mentioned the Chiefs, and even to an extent what the Bills are able to do throwing the ball around the yard. When you see the Browns, sign John Johnson, you get Grant Delpit back. They brought Ronnie Harrison in, who I would be curious to get your thoughts on what Jacksonville is thinking, just giving him away, because he's been very good for us. We draft Newsome, bring in Hill, 2/5 now of the starting secondary for the Rams a year ago. You got Denzel. Do you think that the Browns were trying to build a team more to contend with the Chiefs than anybody else? Because, look, if you want to come out of the AFC, you have to assume the road goes through Kansas City.
Yes. I think you can look at the moves made by both the Bills and the Browns and say, yes, they're building their teams to contend with the Chiefs. I mean, because, again, you sign 2 pass rushers, whether they've had sacks or whatever, they're still guys that people know their name, and you got to hope like they can rush the passer in Cleveland. And the the Bills drafted 2, and then you got all those defensive backs. And so, yes, I think they're building a roster to try and knock off the Chiefs, which is the right thing to do. If all those secondary guys come back healthy, there's going to be a lot of good battles in that secondary.
Yeah.
As far as Ronnie Harrison, look, I think Ronnie Harrison would be the first one to probably admit to you, this is what I've heard from inside that building, wasn't a mature player. Early on in his career, he was not a mature player, and there were some, situations and where he, I think he thought he was a star before he was, and sometimes it takes a change of scenery to make you a better player. And I bet you, if you asked him, he'd be the first one to tell you that.
Yeah, he's been great with us and did say he had some growing up to do, and he's obviously very happy to be here, and we're happy to have him. All right, Pete, Beau covered Urban Meyer down with Ohio State for a long, long time. What are your initial thoughts? We're seeing them roll out. It's like a college program. They're rolling out the new recruiting studio here, the new hotels, the new fields and everything. What do you make of just kind of what seems to be an unbelievable start to the Urban Meyer era in Jacksonville?
Urban Meyer would not have taken that job if he didn't have Trevor Lawrence as the number one pick. I mean, he's pretty much told people that. And I think he realized you can get that special quarterback for the next generation. Why not come back and do it?
Sure.
And he's going to go in there and instill a bunch of different programs. They needed a new facility. I mean, look, their facility was inside the stadium. It was never that good. It's the smallest in the league in terms of square feet. So they're building a new practice facility. They're building that hotel. It's going to boom up around there, and you know how that goes. If you win, they come. If you don't, they won't. It's really simple. Everybody says, "Oh, with Jacksonville, the fans don't go." In the early years when they were winning, they got 75,000. That was a big stadium back then. They filled it, or 73,000, whatever it was, and they were passionate about it. And then they stunk for a long time, and the interest wanes, and you got to have the young kid who was agonizing when they lost in the championship game in '99 be a season ticket holder. Well, he's that age now. And so if they win, and they will because Trevor Lawrence is the real deal, and Urban Meyer is a good football coach. I don't think he's a great X's and O's guy, but I think he's going to be really good in terms of overseeing the whole program. Then I think they're going to be a winner, and it won't take a long time when you have a quarterback like that.
Pete, thanks for your time today, man, and thanks for playing along. We appreciate you.
Hey, you can rip me. Nathan can rip me all you want. You can. There's no doubt because I ripped him before. You can rip me all you want.
I would never rip you. I just like to have a little debate with you, Pete.
No, you can disagree with me all you want, but at least you do it in the normal way. There was a guy I was on in the morning with over there. He was trying to create some maybe his own buzz, and he didn't do it the right way. But he was fun too. I could. You know me, Nathan. I could take it. I don't care.
You can't try to ride the Prisco coattails. You got to step in there and go.
Can't have
mano a mano. Let's go.
By the way, didn't I tell you, Nathan, a year and a half, 2 years ago that Kevin Stefanski would be a big-time coach?
Yes, you most certainly did, and we are thrilled to have him here and excited to see what is next. But, Pete, I will say this. You have a lot of strong opinions. You are not afraid to plant your flag in the ground. And people, if you follow him on Twitter and you see this, you're right more often than not. So when you have that kind of cachet, it goes a long way, and you don't mind debating the people. You don't mind giving them a taste of their own medicine, and then when they don't measure up, block. See you later.
See ya. You got it. All right, guys, take care.
All right, Pete.
See you, Pete. That's good stuff there. All right, coming up next, we'll go to our OTA team camp tours of the Detroit Lions. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, Cleveland, summer's almost here. Stack up at Meijer on top picks like Bounty, Tide, Old Spice, and Crest. They're in stock and available. Plus, this week, save over $100 on P&G brands with M-Perks. Place your order in the Meijer app today. As part of the CBD OTA Camp Tour, we'll take a look at the Detroit Lions. We'll start there. Lomas Brown will be joining us in about 5 minutes from now, the all-time Lions great. This is a reset. Yep. And our guy John Dorsey is there. They are going to build it from the lines out, with the exception of they have a former number 1 overall pick who is on the roster in Jared Goff. And I certainly am not in the Jared Goff fan club to the extent you are, in the belief that you have in him, but I do think he has been significantly besmirched in the last 6 months that his play does not warrant in any way, shape, or form. And I think that he can be a franchise quarterback for the Detroit Lions. I do think that.
I mean, I think of him as a guy who's in the middle of the league, but in right scheme situation
franchise quarterback.
Can be very good. Can be a very, very good
If you can
player.
win divisions,
yes,
you can win playoff games,
also,
you've quarterbacked in a Super Bowl, that's a franchise quarterback.
Yes. So that
doesn't mean you're a Hoff.
Correct. They've got some talent
That's different, though.
It is. It's a different discussion. We talked about that. I don't know they've necessarily put him in the best position to succeed, and that's one of the things we'll talk about in terms of the skill position players around him. But it is a team that it made some investment, as you mentioned, along the lines. Their first 3 picks, and maybe even 4, Barnes is an outside linebacker, but they're certainly their first 3 picks, Penei Sewell, tackle, and then 2 defensive tackles, Onwuzurike and Ali McNeil in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, respectively. That shows you where they were going. Sewell's the only guy that's expected to start for them right out of the gate from those rookies, but this is a team that is really going to try to build it, in the trenches, get tougher, be physical. You have DeAndre Swift, who we like a lot. They brought in Jamal Williams. I think they're in a tough spot. I don't think this is a team that's going to be very successful immediately, but we'll get Lomas's take on that coming up next.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league. If your game plan for the season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Lomas Brown, the all-time great, will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. your home again this summer. Call the pros at Perfect Power Wash. Finally, we get outside to enjoy the time with the family and friends for barbecues and parties. Don't let your dirty home become a distraction, whether it's your siding, your roof, your driveway, your deck, or your patio. With over 20 years in business, PPW, the experts on restoring your home's curb appeal and making your neighbors jealous. Don't spend time in the hot sun lugging around a heavy power washer all weekend. Just get a fraction of the results that you'll get with PPW. The process is super easy. It only takes 5 minutes on the phone, and now I have the cleanest home on the block, and so does Z. Don't put it off any longer because due to high demand, their schedule is filling up fast. Call the pros today, 888-860-WASH. Show your home some love. Use the promo code BEAU. Get 10% off on that as well. As we continue in our tour of OTA team camps, and this is an all-time great, the great Lomas Brown joining us, of course, Lions all-time great color analyst with the Detroit Lions Radio Network. Lomas, such a privilege to have you on. We thank you for the time. This is a season where and it's interesting, you're an all-time great. I see Chris Spielman, who I know very well from his time in Columbus and with Ohio State. I see him back in a prominent role. We see John Dorsey there. We see a different tone and a different direction. What do you make of the new regime?
I love it. And full disclosure, me and Dan Campbell played together 2 years when I was with the New York Giants. So I'm definitely rooting for him and his coaching staff to get in here and turn things around. And, I think Spielman, like you said, he's been doing a great job. I think the team is starting to take on some of his personality, especially if you look at how they drafted this year, how they're starting to go about things over there at Allen Park. So, I'm really looking for the team. I can't get into numbers saying that they're going to win this amount of games or that amount of games, but I do think there'll be a more disciplined team. I think there'll be a more exciting team, and I think they will finish games this year.
Lomas, it was clear they wanted to get better in the trenches and build this team kind of from the lines out. And you look at the draft, the first 3 picks are on the offensive and defensive lines respectively. Is that kind of the new mentality? Is that we're just going to get tougher up front, be more physical to stand up here in this NFC North?
Yes, sir. You got to love those big fellas, man. Those guys that play with their hand in the dirt. And I'm glad to see them go that direction, because, again, that's how you want to be. You want to be a team that's able to pick up that 3rd and 1, or you want to be able to go for it on 4th and 1 and know that you got some guys up front that's going to create a lane for that running back to get through or protect that quarterback while he's trying to complete that pass. And I think they couldn't have done a better job of starting the draft, and like you say, adding the offensive line and Penei Sewell, a generational type of offensive lineman, and then come right behind it with 2 defensive linemen. So to me, what the Lions are going to do, they want to dominate both sides of the line of scrimmage, and especially from the defensive side where we've had a lot of problems the last 3 years. They seem like they want to prevent people from being able to get to the second level of that defense, meaning getting to the linebackers or to that secondary. So I thought they did a great job, and I think these guys are high-character guys and guys that can fit into Dan Campbell's system here.
The great Lomas Brown joining us, Lions color analyst. Of course, he played here in '99 with us, with the Browns as well. And always great to hear from him. Where does Jared Goff fit in here, Lomas? How do they view him?
Well, what I was happy about, too, was that they didn't take a quarterback in the draft. To me, that lets me know, and I think it lets Jared know, that they have full confidence in him, that this is his team, that we're going to go as far as he takes us. And that's a good feeling being a player. You want to feel wanted. We all know the situation that he was in when he was with the Rams, and McVay and them, they just didn't want him anymore. And like I say, anytime you're a player and you come to a situation where the team wants you, the team is embracing you, that's a very good feeling. So I look for Jared to have a good year. They brought in guys to protect them up front. You got a young DeAndre Swift in the backfield. You got a young T.J. Hockenson, all Pro Bowl tight end that he could get the ball to. So I think that they really want to put the ball in Jared's hands and just see how far he can take us. And like I say, that's a good feeling if you're a player, especially a player that's played good in this league. I mean, he's no slouch. He's led a team to a Super Bowl, or helped lead a team to a Super Bowl. So, it has to be a very good feeling for Jared, and I think it's a good feeling for the organization, too, after losing Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, and you mentioned Swift and Hockenson, who I think are dynamic players. We saw that from Swift over the second half of the season last year. My question for you is, you made some moves bringing Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams in, who had been in other places, and Brashad had played with the Browns and was very effective in that 2018 season, had a nice 2019 in Tampa. Where do you see the receivers? Because, when you think for at least in recent years and you think about the Lions, think Kenny Golladay, you think Marvin Jones Jr., Danny Amendola, all gone. Well, how do you think this receiving core is going to do?
Yeah, I mean, that probably is the biggest question mark, one of the biggest question marks right now. But like you said, you brought in some veteran guys that have had success on other teams. But, I'm going to look more closely at the guys that we had here, like the Quintez Cephas. I'm going to look for him to step up next year and have a big year to help Jared Goff out. He's a guy that's been under the system or been in the organization, now going to another system. He's the type of guys that you look at really wanting to make that next big step. I just think if you got a good running game, and you force defenses to bring 8-9 guys up in the box, then that presents more opportunities for your receivers. It helps your receivers out a lot more, and especially, again, when you got a good tight end like T.J. Hockenson, those things right there, when you can control the middle of the field, when you can control those short routes and towards the line of scrimmage, I think it's going to help the receivers be able to get those explosive plays that you look for. So I'm hoping that the combination of all that will help our receivers. But, right now, that probably is one of the biggest question marks that the Lions have going into the 2021 season.
Lomas, you mentioned, the loss of Matthew Stafford, and it's what every NFL team wants to do, right? They want to draft a quarterback number 1 overall. They want to have him there for a dozen years, and hopefully everything falls into place. For whatever reason, it didn't as much as they would have liked from a wins and losses standpoint. When you look back on his time and you look back on the way that it ended, how do Lions fans feel about him? How do you feel about his tenure there?
Well, I always told Matthew when he was here, I wish I'd have got an opportunity to block for him because he was such a tough guy.
Yep.
I mean, the guy would play through pain and play through injuries. The guy would play when it wasn't even necessary to play. When the season was over with, he was still a guy that wanted to get in there and play, even though most of the games were meaningless. And that's the type of attitude, that's the type of character guys that you'll lay down for those guys. And, I always would have loved to have blocked for a guy like him. And I do think, about him being that type of player, he garnered a lot of respect in the state of Michigan from fans and, from these diehard Detroit Lion fans. I think he garnered a lot of respect from them because he was a guy that wanted to show up when he could each and every Sunday, and a guy, like I say, that showed up when he didn't necessarily have to. So, again, like you say, all the pieces weren't around Matthew at one time for, I think, him to really show what he can really do. Now he gets the opportunity. Now he has a different type of pressure on him out in Los Angeles with a team that is their goal is to go to the Super Bowl and not just get there, win the Super Bowl. So that's a lot different expectations that's put on his shoulders than what he had here in the 12 years here. And I think his shoulders are big enough and broad enough to carry that pressure. And I think they're getting a very good quarterback. It's no doubt that Matthew has the arm talent and he has the mentality to be a great quarterback in this league. Now we'll just see when you put all these pieces around him, you'll really get an opportunity to really show just what he can do.
Lomas Brown, great talking to you, sir. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Absolutely, anytime, guys.
All right, that is the
awesome.
great Lomas Brown, Lions color analyst, Detroit Lions radio network, and of course played here in '99. Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's hard to when you think of the Stafford time. I mean, they did everything you're supposed to do. They had a lot of high picks. They had Ndamukong Suh. They had was it Nick Fairley out of Auburn was a high pick for them. They had Calvin Johnson already in place.
Charles Rogers.
They drafted Charles. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. And the kid
Williams.
from Texas, Roy Williams. Yeah. Reggie Bush was there for a little stint. Like it felt like, and it just never came together. And usually when you draft, it's one of the rare examples of when you draft a guy that is a franchise quarterback and you don't have it's a little bit of Kevin Garnett.
Brandon Pettigrew in the first round as well.
Yeah,
they tried. It just never.
It's a little bit of Kevin Garnett with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yep.
Like he was there a long time. They would make the playoffs. He was viewed and respected around the league, and I don't know if he'll have for the Rams what Garnett had for the Celtics. But it's rare that you get a quarterback who is as good as and worthy of being the number one overall pick, and you can't get it done. I can't think of many instances where that happened, where a guy was there a decade, he did everything you'd want him to do to be a franchise quarterback and to be worthy of the number one overall. Usually they bust. That's usually how it doesn't work. They're not as good as you draft them to be.
Yep.
That wasn't the case here.
No, he
was
good.
as good as drafted to be, and they just couldn't put it together around him. Your experiences in Detroit in terms of going to Lions games?
So I don't know that we've been there other than, remember the preseason game where
Sure.
Baker had the good one. My first year on the road with the Browns, we had a preseason game up there. I'm trying to think if we did have the regular season game there in 16 or 17, one of those 2 years. It's always, you stay in that nice complex where there's the big hotels. I remember going up to the Super Bowl that year when it was there that are kind of right on the river. There's some good restaurants all around there. And yes, it's you're just kind of in, out. It's a bus trip. We've always bussed to and from Detroit.
Love those.
So yeah, not ideal, but it's a nice quick one, right? It's a quick little bus ride up, and
sure.
I like Ford Field. I think Ford Field's a nice place. Seeing the bricks in there, it's kind of a cool as far as domes go. It has a little character to it. So it's different though. Me, I think of Matt Stafford. I think of Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson when I think of the modern era Lions.
No question. And, I mean, my familiarity with going to sporting events in Michigan is primarily in Ann Arbor. So I've never been to a Lions game, and I don't know what makes Detroit tick. Is it a Lions town, I wonder? Is it a Tigers town? Is it a Red Wings town? I don't think it's a Pistons town. I wonder what it is. I wonder, is it a Tigers?
Red Wings, I mean – when they were good, they were
for a while,
obviously
for sure.
really, really good. It's a neat little complex, though, where you've got the base Comerica Park, which is cool,
sure.
And you got the Tigers there. I think when the Lions are good, it's the Lions. I mean, they've had 3 playoff appearances in the last decade. They just haven't won a playoff game. They went there 3 times with Stafford. I think when the Lions are good, of course it's going to be rocking. It's good Midwest football town.
I would think it would
for
be.
Sure.
I mean, I would think it would be in vicinity with us
regarded.
Us and the Bills and that in terms of like if you ever win there in the NFL, it'll be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, agreed.
And I think they're one of those ones that has. I honestly can't think of another team that took a quarterback number 1 overall and the guy was there 12 years and played at a high level and they didn't win more.
Yeah, it's true.
It's very rare. When I think of Detroit Lions, Lomas Brown is somebody I certainly think of. Obviously, Barry Sanders is who comes to mind first, and I also think of the Letterman's jacket that Eddie Murphy wore in Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes, I love that. I love it.
Those are the
that's what comes to mind. Yeah,
those are the things that come to mind.
There's the Mount Rushmore right there: Stafford, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, and the jacket.
The jackets.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be one of our things when we go through the Mount Rushmore. That's what we'll do for the Lions.
Yeah, that'll be their Mount Rushmore. Will be Eddie Murphy's jacket in Beverly Hills Cop, Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford, and Barry Sanders, and Spielman up there, and they certainly are built. There's so many. You talk about Dan Campbell, Chris Spielman, John Dorsey. I mean, those guys are brothers from other mothers. That's the same mindset.
Very much so.
That is the same mindset. Spielman and Dorsey, same.
Very much
same
so.
dude right there. I think long road, long rebuild. It'll be about if they can hit on the draft. Obviously, it'll be the way that thing goes, and we'll see if they can do that. We'll continue to take a look at the teams around the league over the course of the next month or so, in advance and in looking back at OTAs and into mandatory minicamps. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk and Elk Serious Lawyers, serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO today for a free case review. Elk and Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. I don't know if this registered for you. Did you see the news yesterday that Bob Baffert, famed thoroughbred trainer, is banned from Churchill Downs for 2 years? And I was thinking to myself, you don't feel sorry for him. He cheated. He got caught. He's made a lot of money. But isn't that a career ender? Like, if you're in the business of training horses and you can't go to the Kentucky Derby and you can't race at Churchill Downs, isn't that the end?
Yeah, 2 years is, I guess, it's not, permanent, which would for sure, that's good night, Irene. It definitely feels like a pretty big setback. And boy, I mean, the thing about it is, and it's they got caught. And then they're going through, we had, 80 different explanations from a guy peeing on hay and the horse eating that particular micturated upon hay. That's pretty wild to me that we got through all that, and then it's like, oh, yeah, no, actually, you did it. Busted. Yeah. It's got to be. Look, that sport draws a lot of money. There's a lot wagered on it. It's got to be kept clean.
Yeah.
And I wonder, so what do they do?
It's almost impossible.
What do they do? So are they stripping them of the Kentucky Derby, and then how does that affect betting?
Well, it doesn't affect betting. If you cash a ticket, you cashed a ticket.
Got it.
The second place horse doesn't get to go make it right. So that's won't affect betting in that sense.
2 minutes.
I mean, I don't know that that's happened yet, but I assume that it will. If twice you've been found to have tested positive and been cheating, I think it would be stripped. There was a fantastic HBO series that was done by the guy who did Deadwood about horse racing in Southern California at Santa Anita. It lasted one season, and the reason for that is that several horses died in the filming of it, and that is something that happened especially at Santa Anita a lot in the last couple of years, and there's parallel here. Tendons are tendons, and horses are athletes, and if you are juicing or overtraining, they don't hold up.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot. There's a Real Sports story on it that was fascinating on how this doesn't happen in the European horse business, but it happens here stateside at a pretty wide margin. So
1 minute.
That's where you are on that. But it's fascinating stuff. Yeah, I think it was called Luck.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah, very, very good. It was very good. But again, one season, and they had to shut it down for obvious reasons and justifiable reasons.
If this show, by the way, if every one of our episodes had a title, this one would be The Edit. Will always be remembered for
what
Gibbe did today.
That would be the way it'll be remembered,
Delpit.
as The Edit. The truth was not allowed to set the people free.
No.
And that's sad.
That is sad.
Because
we,
Are you two still
good to know that
talking?
Grant felt the way that we felt.
Yeah, we're finishing a radio show, Gibbe. Thanks.
What are you talking
We're closing
about?
it up. We're closing the radio show.
You're saying the next
level is next.
Next level's next.
It's a smart move.
We're back tomorrow. So
that's right.
Thanks for listening.